Welcome to the Mixology Talk podcast, where we serve up answers for your cocktail questions, interview top industry professionals, and keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of craft cocktails.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the 11th episode of the Mixology Talk podcast. I'm Julia.
And I'm Chris.
And I don't know about you, but ordering a drink at a cocktail bar can be a lot harder than it should be. Sometimes when we walk into these bars, I have no idea where to start, and I'll look at a cocktail menu and be totally lost. Even Chris sometimes has a hard time translating, and if Chris can't figure out the cocktail menu, I am up a creek.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like places just kind of make up a bunch of ingredients to make them sound even more exciting than they should be. So, for example, if I see another cocktail with alder, smoked, unicorn hoof, infused in morning dew distilled vodka, I'm going to be sick.
Oh, man, I see that all the time.
It's everywhere. It's so last year.
Oh, my gosh, seriously. I think they just do it to make the cocktail more expensive.
That's what I do anyways, for sure.
Is that on your menu? Shame on you.
It was, yeah, definitely.
So what I would definitely start with when walking into a bar you're unfamiliar with is, well, walking into any bar, frankly, is to just know what you like.
Yeah, kind of stick to the basics. Have a couple of cocktails that are really kind of hard to mess up at any bar you go to. So some of the cocktails, some of my safe bets are a margarita, a Moscow Mule, and definitely a beer.
That's definitely a safe bet. Absolutely.
Can't really screw that one up.
I would say one thing about a margarita, and that is that it seems like there's a huge variance there in terms of how sweet it's going to be. Sometimes they end up quite tart, and sometimes they end up like some sort of weird county fair slushy.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is if you ask 10 different bartenders what their recipe is for a margarita, you're going to get 10 different answers.
It's true. I will say one thing. If there's a slushy machine, I'm probably not going to order a margarita.
Oh, I probably would. Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
Definitely. So for me, what I'm most likely to order if I want a safe bet is honestly a glass of wine. I quite often order the house white or house red, depending on my mood. And they're usually safe bets. They go through a lot of volume on the house wines, so they can usually get a good deal on something that's pretty decent. And
and it'll be fresh because they're going through a lot of volume very quickly.
And it won't be too expensive either.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the quote-unquote cocktail that I would have in my back pocket is a rum and coke.
It doesn't surprise me.
You know, it was a good year into our marriage when I admitted to Chris that the rum and coke was my drink of choice in college, and miraculously he did not divorce me.
It was a dark year though, let's be honest.
That's totally unfair.
But I will be I'll say this, that I've never had a bad rum and coke in any bar I've ever been in. I've never had a good one either, but I haven't had a bad one.
You know what you're gonna get. Even if it's like all rum and little coke or vice versa, it's not gonna be terrible.
Right.
It's gonna be fine. And I would say Jack and Coke, same thing there. I would say rum and Coke, Jack and Coke, pretty safe bets.
Yeah, 2-part cocktails, gin and tonics, vodka sodas. They're not going to be able to screw that up. No matter, I couldn't even screw that up if I tried.
I have to say here that this reminds me of a story, that one of my favorite stories about rum and cokes, which says a lot because, like I said, that was my standby in college. But on our honeymoon, we went to Thailand, and at one point we were in Phuket, on the island of Phuket, and we ordered Long Island iced teas. And
I was super excited. I was like, oh man, this is great. Sitting on the beach, Long Island iced tea, I'm in heaven. And the cocktail menu was like literally like 4 pages long.
It was like a 3-ring binder.
Yeah.
It was super, and we were excited because we hadn't really had a decent cocktail yet. Just, you see a lot of the same thing over and over again. So we were excited about our Long Island iced teas. We hadn't seen that before. So it showed up, was set in front of us. I took a nice long sip, and
it was a rum and coke.
Rum and coke. Absolutely. There was nothing else in that drink.
We thought about it. We drank it again. And we're like, nope, that's definitely a rum and coke.
I took a sip and I was like, man, I just don't remember Long Island's tasting this way. And I gave it to Chris and I was validated.
Yeah. And
we ordered a couple other things on the menu that night, and every single thing we ordered ended up being a rum and coke.
Yeah, and it's funny is because like it had 4 pages of cocktails, and it could have been 1 page and just say rum and coke on it.
It was hilarious, and you know it wasn't expensive. And you know what? We were on the beach in Thailand, so we had a great night.
Yeah,
but it was
not a bad thing.
I will always think of that night when I have a rum and coke.
That was really funny. Yeah,
or perhaps Long Island too.
Right.
So the first thing that I would do when I walk into a bar I'm unfamiliar with is take a good hard look around. What is everybody else drinking? If nobody in the entire joint is ordering cocktails and there's like a few dusty spirit bottles on the back bar, I'd probably order a beer.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you walk into a really ritzy cocktail bar and, you know, the bartenders have handlebar mustaches, and they're all wearing vests, and they have a bottle of unicorn tears on their back bar, you're probably going to have success with any cocktail you're going to order.
They're
going to
probably know what they're
job.
doing. Exactly.
But I will say, you're probably going to have to wait a while for them.
If it's anything like San Francisco, there's a couple places where you might be waiting a little while. However, they'll be amazing.
Yeah, they'll definitely be worth the wait. So, one of the other things is if you're feeling adventurous and you're not really sure what to order, so instead of looking at the menu, take a look around at some of the cocktails other people are drinking. So if you see that same pink cocktail in the hands of a bunch of other people in the bar, it's probably a pretty safe bet that's going to be a pretty damn good cocktail.
Yeah, guys, swallow your pride and order that pink drink.
So other than that, there's a couple ways to kind of decipher a cocktail menu. There's a couple things to take a look at. And that'll give you a pretty good indication of what the drink is going to taste like.
Yeah, if there's lime or lemon juice listed in the ingredients, it's probably going to be something a little bit more refreshing, and it's a pretty safe bet that it's going to be balanced between the sweet and sour from the fruit.
Yeah, and if there's anything that has pineapple or orange juice on there, it's probably going to be a little bit on the sweeter side because pineapple and orange juice don't have the same amount of acidity as lemon or lime juice, but they definitely have a lot more sugar.
And same with soda, I would say, because quite frequently you see recipes with ginger ale and even sometimes things like 7-Up. If you see any sort of soda, sweet soda, definitely expect a sweeter drink.
Yeah, definitely a good rule of thumb on that one for sure. So the other thing is that if you see a bunch of weird words on the menu and you recognize, 2 or more of the items on the menu as alcohols, there's a pretty good chance that it's going to be a pretty alcohol-focused cocktail like a Manhattan or a martini.
Yeah, it seems, I'm totally making this up, but it seems as though most non-spirit-focused drinks usually only have one base spirit. They might have a liqueur to go with it, but you don't normally see a drink with like an ounce of tequila and an ounce of vodka. Yeah,
and kind of what we were talking about earlier about looking around, for the most part, if you look at a cocktail and it's cloudy and you can't see through it, most likely it's going to be, citrus juice in there, some dairy possibly. It's going to have a lot more going on than just spirit. But on the other hand, if you can look straight through the glass and it, like a martini or even has kind of a ruby color like a Manhattan, you better believe it's probably going to be all spirit-focused.
Yeah, you can usually tell, definitely. And it seems like spirit-focused drinks often come in coupe glasses. Actually, I guess a lot of drinks come in coupe glasses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's probably no standard there. So another idea that I frankly like to lean on is to ask the bartender. If the place is not too crazy, and this is important, if the place is crazy, if there's 10 people deep at the bar throwing cash at the dude and he's sweating bullets, don't ask the bartender. But if it's not like that, it's usually okay to ask the bartender because usually they're going to be somebody who's interested in cocktails, who knows what they're talking about, and they might be interested in a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I always like to do is from behind the bar is if somebody doesn't know what they want, I start to ask them some leading questions like, what do you like to normally drink? And that kind of gets the ball rolling and, find out kind of the base spirit that they like. Maybe they drink Manhattans. So I already know they're kind of looking for a spirit-focused cocktail. The other thing is that I'll ask them, what are they kind of feeling like? Do they want something a little bit more light and refreshing? Do they want something a little bit more tart or savory? Or, have them describe kind of what they want to drink. Yeah. And I can get them pretty close to the cocktail they're kind of imagining.
Exactly. And I would say just be prepared before you ask the bartender. I can't tell you how many times we've gone into a bar and I've seen someone ask the bartender for their advice. And the bartender says, well, what do you feel like? And they say, I don't know what's good here.
Right.
It's kind of awkward.
Yeah. And it becomes this weird, like, I don't even know what to call it.
It's a weird exchange.
Yeah, it really is. So, like, it's like somebody's not ready to commit. So it just kind of keeps going back and forth.
It's just a cocktail. Commit.
Right, exactly.
It's true, though. Have a sense for what you're looking for. I mean, your reason could be anything. You could walk into a bar and be like, I'm on a diet. I want something with the least possible calories. Just give me some vodka and soda water.
Right.
Or whatever. Whatever your reason is, just own it. Tell the guy and let him help you be successful.
Right. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get a pretty damn good cocktail out of the deal. So navigating cocktail can be really challenging, but with a few pointers, you're going to be able to order a cocktail like Don Draper. So remember that have a few safe bets under your belt and look around to see what other people are drinking.
Definitely. I would say that looking around is one of the best clues. One of the things that I always like to look for, especially at no offense, divey places. If you see any bottles of vermouth on the back bar and they're like covered in dust and they're like obviously haven't been opened in like 5 weeks, don't order anything that has vermouth in it because that stuff is supposed to be in the refrigerator.
Yeah, it is a wine. It's basically a wine
yeah, it's
ingredient.
Fortified, right?
Yeah.
But not enough.
But it's going to go bad, just like open bottle of wine will.
Yeah,
it'll
exactly.
oxidize.
In a really, really high volume bar, it's totally fine for it to be on the back bar because they probably go through a bottle a day.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
if you're looking at a place, and if it's covered in dust, I would probably not go for that one. So
Right.
that's just another example of an indicator that you can look for. Take a look behind the bar, look around. If they've got a huge variety of things, then they probably use them and they probably know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet. But if you want to take a look at the summary of this episode, just head on over to our website at mixologytalk.com/11.
So I can tell you right now, Chris is super excited for next week. There is only one thing he loves almost as much as bar spoons, and that is...
Oh, bar books. I love cocktail books. Anything about cocktails, cocktail history,
It's
ingredients.
true.
I'm just like a kid in a candy store. I'm
Do
so
you have
excited.
more bar books or bar spoons?
I don't want to talk about this.
I'm going to go count.
But if
Hold
you have
on.
extra bar books that you're not reading, send them to me.
Don't do it.
Yeah, and use your bar spoon as your bookmarker. That's awesome.
He doesn't do that. He's making that up. So next week, we're going to be talking about the 3 books that Chris would recommend for home bartenders who are looking to take their drinks to the next level, but not get too crazy.
No, I'm super excited about this one. But for this episode, that's pretty much a wrap. So hopefully you feel confident walking into any bar and ordering a cocktail. Even that crazy hipster bar with the plaid, booths, you should feel comfortable ordering a drink there as well.
You know the one we're talking about.
Absolutely. So if you're enjoying this podcast,
Or not.
let us know. Your reviews are how we get better.
And how other people decide whether or not to listen.
So open up iTunes on your iPhone or computer and leave us a review, and we would definitely appreciate it.
So go forth and order some drinks.
So until next time, guys, cheers.
Cheers. Never miss an episode by subscribing in iTunes or YouTube. And as always, check out the show notes by clicking on the right.